Section 9.3b is about solving equations by factoring. If you remember in previous videos, we've talked about that we're going to learn a method of factoring, and then we're going to use that method to solve equations. So let's review solving equations, the steps. So here are the steps to solving equations by factoring. Number one, we get one side equal to 0. So in our example, we're going to subtract 15 from both sides. Now if you notice, there's no like terms on the left side to subtract 15 from, so we just subtract it off at the end, and we have a trinomial that equals 0. Step number two is factor if needed. This trinomial does factor, and we're going to use the diamond to do that. Multiply the number 1 in front times the number negative 15, and on the bottom we'll put a 2. So we need two terms that multiply to give us 15 and add to give us 2. So let's list the terms of the factors of 15, 3 and 5. It looks to me like 3 and 5 would be the two that I need, but one of them has to be negative, so I'll go with a negative 3 and a positive 5. Then I can take my trinomial x squared minus 15 and then rewrite the middle terms using a minus 3x and a plus 5x. So that's the method of factoring that we just learned in this section, and now we're using it here to solve. So we'll group, take out an x, live with an x minus 3, take out a positive 5, x minus 3, and then take out that x minus 3, and I'm left with x plus 5. So all of that is involved in step number 2, factoring this trinomial into two binomial factors. Now I can go on to step number 3. Set each factor equal to 0. And if you remember, the zero product property allows me to do that. And now I can solve each one individually. So x equals 3 and x equals negative 5. Write my answer in squiggly brackets, negative 5 and 3. And that is my solution to this equation. Here's another example of solving while factoring. Again, I'm going to put the steps to solving by factoring up here. You don't have to write them down again, but I like to have them in front of me just as a reminder. Step number 1, get one side equal to 0. Well, that step's already done, which is good. Now we're going to factor. So in my diamond, I'll multiply the 1 times the 6. That goes on top, and then put the 7 on the bottom. So I need two factors of 6 that add to be 7. Looks like a 1 and 6 are those two factors. So I will rewrite my trinomial using the factors 1n and 6n. Remember, the middle term, the middle variable, gets added on to those two factors. And now we'll factor this by grouping. Take out an n, left with an n plus 1. Take out a positive 6, left with an n plus 1. Then we'll take out the n plus 1, leaving behind an n plus 6. Once again, all of that is step 2, factoring this trinomial so that now I can solve it using the zero product property. Step 3, set each factor equal to 0. And then step 4 says to solve. And there's my solution. In this example, we're going to start by getting one side equal to 0. Well, over here I'm going to add 10y. And we haven't done this before, but we're actually moving a y term. So when I write this trinomial, I want to write it in descending order. That way it creates a trinomial that I can factor by using the diamond and by using grouping. So step 1 is done, it equals 0. Step 2, I want the diamond, so I multiply the first number and the last number to get a 9 on the top and a 10 on the bottom. So I need two factors of 9 that add to be 10. That would be 1 and 9. So y squared plus 9. Have the positive 1y and the positive 9y in the middle. Now we'll factor that by grouping. Take out a y, left with y plus 1. Take out a 9, left with y plus 1. So factoring, I get y plus 1 times y plus 9, and that equals 0. Step 3, set each factor equal to 0. The zero product property says I can do this. And then we'll solve. my solution, negative 9 and negative 1. In this example, we're doing the same thing we've been doing, so feel free to pause the video, try it for yourselves, and then come back and check your answer. I'll get one side equal to 0 by subtracting 22. In this one, the terms are really all jumbled up. The key is to make sure that they're in descending order. So we put the x squared term first, then plus 9x, and then minus 22. That equals 0. The diamond says that negative 22 should be on the top, and that a 9 should be on the bottom. I want to list the factors of 22, 1 and 22, and 2 and 11. Now I think 2 and 11 would be the ones I have to use, but 1 has to be negative, so that my product is negative, but I need a positive 9. So how about a negative 2 and a positive 11? So rewriting my trinomial with the middle terms of a negative 2x and a positive 11x. Now we'll group. Take out an x, take out an 11, that's step 2. Now we'll set each factor equal to 0 and then solve.